I guess I'm always looking for that next challenge. Like I feel like I haven't found something that been the one that's like that's too much. So when you complete that 354 miles, you're like, well, what can I do now? What's next?
Welcome to the Athlete's Compass podcast. Each week, renowned sports scientist and founder of Athletica AI, Dr. Paul Laursen, athlete, coach, and sports scientist Marjaana Rakai, and coach and cyclist Paul Warloski discuss training, racing, and improving your health and fitness. Get ready for your journey to peak performance. Hello and welcome to the Athlete's Compass podcast, where we navigate training, fitness, and health for everyday athletes. Today, we get to talk with an everyday athlete who has taken on some amazing challenges and adventures in her life, Amber Searer, who lives in the northeast part of Wisconsin. Amber, tell us a bit about yourself and where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Yes, hi. So I am located in Freedom, Wisconsin, which is a little town about 10 miles outside of Appleton. Currently, I am a full-time photographer, so I run my own photography business. Been doing that since 2017. I launched it. I am also a surgical technician, so I work in surgery um, as needed right now. That was my full-time position and started that in 2008. But as you know, my photography business took off, then I scaled back in surgery and went full-time photography.
Wow.
Wow. Cool.
Good
Well,
for you.
Paul and I are just coming back from surgery. I've got my knee
Oh,
done here. Paul had his heart done, and
uh,
so we are grateful for your people like yourselves, Amber, on in the surgical aspect. But photography is pretty cool too.
yeah, thank you.
So tell us about your athletic background and what got you in initially into endurance sports.
So in high school, I actually did not play a lot of sports. I started my freshman year of high school. I did cross country, and I ended the season with 3 stress fractures in my foot. And I just never went back to it because got that car and I just wanted to work, pay for that. And it wasn't until after I had kids that I was like, I got to get back into shape. I think I want to lose a couple pounds here. And my husband too, he wanted to lose some weight, and he actually got some spinnervals, I think they were. So they're those old workout bike DVDs from his sister. And my husband would sit in the basement when our newborn, and he would just sit on a trainer and spin. And he started losing weight, and I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna do something. So I had like a old mountain bike from Fleet Farm, and I would pull my kids in a little trailer, just starting 5-10 miles out at a time. And yeah, when you hit that first 10 miles, you're like, oh my gosh, I rode my bike 10 miles pulling kids, like just super cool. And
Yeah.
from there, my sister-in-law, she does a lot of Ironmans, triathlons, and she kind of like got me into running, doing duathlons with, having a running background a little bit. And so I really liked them, but my favorite was actually like the bike portion. So I had watched a criterium race that was in Neenah when Toad used to come there. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, I want to do that. So I jumped into a criterium, and then the rest was history. Like, I loved it. I loved the adrenaline rush. And I started racing criteriums and cyclocross for a while. Um, but I think when COVID hit and our road scene kind of died off here in Wisconsin, I was looking for something new and jumped into gravel and did Unbound, the 200-mile one, um, back in, I think, 2021 or 22. And, 200 miles, that was like amazing. And then it's kind of like, well, what do I do next? What's next? And then it just kind of took off from there.
That's amazing. Like going from 5 to 10 miles with kids
Yeah.
in tow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And then 200 miles. What a journey.
Yes.
What are you most proud of all the adventures that you've done?
Last spring, I finished the Unbound XL, so it was 354 miles. It was the South course, and it was the year that it had rained and rained, and it was so muddy. There was just sections where it was just miles of walking your bike, because as soon as you put your bike down in that mud, the mud just collected everywhere and your chain would fall off. There are so many people with mechanical issues, and like I had to, you have this goal time in your head of like, what time you want to compete this distance in, and I kind of had to like check myself and realize that that goal was probably not obtainable anymore, just with all the walking. And I kind of told myself, it's okay, you're where you're supposed to be out here. It's okay if it takes longer. We're gonna get it done. So I
Yeah,
think
that's awesome.
that was my most proud event.
How long did it take you?
How long did that take, Amber? That
I
354 miles
believe
of
like
gravel.
with all my stops, it was 28 hours.
Wow. So tell us how that, like, when does that event start? And then, yeah, like,
So,
are you finishing at night, or obviously you're going right through? I'm
yep,
assuming you don't sleep. You're going to push right
no.
through.
Yeah, so Unbound XL, we start 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, and then we go through the evening into the night into the next day when we finish. The 200-mile course, they go out, Saturday. So at one point in the day, you will meet up with that course, but it isn't until like sometimes the last 50 miles. So you're like hoping to see people out there, but most of the time you're by yourself. And I think you just have to be okay being alone in the dark at night and knowing that you're okay, and other people are out there suffering with you. You just can't see them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just amazed. So, I did in 1995 and 1997. I was privileged to be part of the team Race Across America
Yeah.
team for Canada. Canada put a team in with that, and we had pace vehicles with us when we were going overnights and stuff, with big, huge spotlights. And we would still have lights on our bike, but it's like the spotlights of the van behind us were what was helping us. And we had navigators too, right? How do
Okay.
you navigate yourself in pitch black with I'm just imagining you've got a really good light system. Like, what's that
Yeah.
like?
So I run a front bar light, and then I run a helmet light. My helmet light has interchangeable batteries. So that, I have a backup battery I carry, and I carry a power bank in case my front light would fail. Um, there's so many different lighting systems out there, but this one is, the one that's working for me. Cynthia Carson, actually, I don't know if you guys know her. She has been amazing. She was Cynthia Fraser. She's done so many ultra endurance events, and she actually pointed me in the direction of the helmet light by Phoenix, and it's awesome. So I just kind of stick it on my helmet. But yeah, it's it's tricky, like, because some of the parts, for Unbound are technical. So it's like, riding in that comfort zone of how fast can you go with where you run out of light, where your light is reaching. Um, but yeah, we have, you got your GPX file on your Garmin, and you're just hoping that that navigation's correct at night and that you have service most of the route.
Did you ever go off course, like, because of the complexities of
I
night riding?
No, I did not at Unbound. And we also had to carry a Garmin InReach too, so that way the course officials can kind of make sure we're on track, and our doubts are still moving. We're okay. They're out there watching us through the night. So it's kind
Nice.
of reassuring, having that too. But no, I was okay for the Garmin Unbound. I have heard of people, yes, navigating off course. So I can see where that would happen. You're tired, you're delusional, and sometimes, in through the town, like it's kind of hard to navigate, looking at that little screen.
Yeah.
So you have a really busy schedule. I mean, what does a week of training look like for something like Unbound or whatever you're working on now? Can you walk us through what your training routine looks like?
Yeah, so right now, actually with fall, I'm in kind of my off season. I don't have any like hard training plans or anything like that in my calendar right now. So um, the coach that I was working with, he calls it kind of just riding for joy in finding the pleasure back, in enjoying the journey and taking pictures of the changing fall leaves and having fun with friends. Just getting out there and doing some coffee rides and stuff. But um, once December, January hits, I'll start, getting back into training and ramping up, starting with probably some FTP testing, which I hate. I'm not good at that on the bike. I'm terrible. But yeah, some FTP testing and then working in the VO2 work. But I mean, even in January, I'll start ramping up to 12, 13 hours a week, which it's hard mentally sometimes living in Wisconsin because it's a lot of trainer time. With the winter, I try and get outside sometimes fat biking, but a lot of times I'm inside. I'll do like a Zwift endurance group ride to kind of have something to focus on. But I'll usually start doing 5, 6 hour rides on the trainer starting in January. And then February, we'll add in more volume. We'll get up to about probably 15 hours a week. And then March will come my first race. I like to do the Mid-South race in Oklahoma. So hopefully when you go down there, you can get outside a little bit, start building in more volume. And then I try and get outside by April here in Wisconsin if weather's allowing, because I'm getting, closer to those 18-hour weeks, 20-hour weeks. So I'm going to be entering the Unbound lottery again this year. So like by April, we're getting that 12-hour endurance ride in one day just to kind of prep for that race. So sometimes it's a little chilly.
Wow. I'm just mind blown, like 12-hour ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot training for anyone during the week, but just on one go. You go like from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yeah, pretty much. Or, till nightfall, in April. And it's hard because a lot of times, like people don't want to ride outside in April nobody really wants to do 12 hours with me. So sometimes I'll have people meet me out I'll do like 2 hours with you, or, a chunk here and there. But I think last year, I like to make routes on roads that I like don't know. So I rode from my house up to Sturgeon Bay. So creating a route that is on new roads kind of keeps it entertaining for myself.
Yeah.
Kind of helps with the boredom of it.
Yeah. So with so much training, how do you balance your training with other commitments? You have kids and your photography business.
Yeah.
And
So right now, like fall is busy time for photography. So it's nice that my training's low, and it works well for me with the bulk of my training being in spring, because photos are typically slower then. So I do have a lot of daytime freedom to get out when my kids are in school to ride, which is really nice. But I usually, if I need to, I get up super early in the morning. Like I've gotten up at, riding at 4 a.m. Just so I can get like my 3-hour ride in before I got to send my kiddos off to school. Thankfully, they are a little bit older now and self-sufficient. So I have a 7th grader and a sophomore, so I can leave them home alone, but you still got that mom guilt. Like, I'm not home. They're alone. I gotta get home and entertain them or do something with them. So yeah, I usually plan out my week. I'm a planner, so I kind of make sure like my workouts become part of like my schedule. So I don't like wing any part of my week really. It's very structured. And I kind of schedule everything around that. And I look ahead when I have my long rides too. And if I need to switch something around, I will on training peaks. But otherwise, everything's pretty well scheduled for me. just trying to keeping it all in line.
Yeah, sounds pretty familiar with what I do too. Like always have to check my training plan first before I can say, oh,
Yes.
can I
Yep.
do any social commitments?
Yes, that's exactly how it is.
Sorry, I have a ride that day.
Yeah, but I mean sometimes like when you have goals like but that's what you have to do to prioritize it and make time for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Amber, you have three coaches here, including a very notable sports scientist. What questions do you have for us? How can we help you?
So when we're talking about zone 2 work on the bike, do you like to prescribe that based on heart rate or on power?
Paul.
Absolutely heart rate for sure.
Okay.
Because it's if you did if you prescribed with power, say, like, let's just say that your zone 2 level was 150 watts and you went at 150 watts for the first hour or the second hour, you might be right within that heart rate, that same heart rate zone. But if you're going up to 12 hours like you do, Amber, your heart rate may have very much escalated
Mm-hmm.
way past your zone 2 level. And in that case, you'll have a situation where your body is screaming at you because you're stressed. And the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of the zone 2 work is for it to be a low stress workout. That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
purpose of it, is to allow you to recover from all of the quality work that's around it, right? From back to the classic Steven Seiler polarized training model. You want to do your hard sessions screaming hard and your easy sessions screaming easy. So because there's so much room for duration in that zone 2, you want to prescribe it using heart rate. So this is what we do in our platform, Athletica. There's an option on the Garmin Push, for example, to you can either push it to power, you can push it to heart rate, or you can let the smart coach choose. And for all of the zone 2 workouts on Athletica, they get pushed to heart rate on your watch. So you're guided then only by your heart rate, and you'll get an alarm only if you veer outside of those guardrails in your heart rate, and it'll say might want to go a little lower here at the moment because your heart rate's drifting. And then even if you down regulate your power, say from that 150 marker down to 125, no big deal, but at least the physiological stress is at bay, and we're not going to be exacerbating any issues that are going to lead to more stress tomorrow, for example, because consistency is the most important aspect of your training plan, your training program. And in any time you bin yourself, you run the risk of not being able to pick back up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
heart
makes
rate
sense.
for zone 2.
Okay. I've always wondered that. That's what I currently train with zone 2 on, is my heart rate. I've had a coach in the past, will not name any names, that did all my zone 2 on power, and I was so burned out.
Yeah.
That coming season, I was like, man, something's not right here.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. So I mean, it's great you've had that experience that kind of
yeah.
supports the philosophy we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I have one more question. So for typical athletes, how many days of rest do you prescribe, like completely off the bike during the season? Is it just athlete dependent?
It's totally athlete dependent. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So, and it probably aligns with how fit you are. So the
Mm-hmm.
fitter you are, again, when we just look to, I know you use Training Peaks, Amber. So if you've ever gone onto your performance management system and
Mm-hmm.
if you ever looked at the PMC charts, they sort of show your fitness, and like sometimes people chase the fitness numbers, the CTL number. So the higher that, in theory, the higher that CTL number, the I guess the stronger you are in terms of an acute bout of it ever kind of affecting you. So in theory, this is why many elite athletes almost never take like a day off in that when they're building up. So like they, some do, but many don't. They might just do an easy day as opposed to the big day. Same with like Tour de France riders, right? It's notorious that when they're doing the tour over those 18 days, even in the recovery days, they're still riding a minimum of 3 hours on the off day, right? In their recovery day. So this is just kind of one example, but in the case where you take yourself back to when you were riding 5 and 10 miles, just coming off the couch. Well, of course, you're going to need so much more rest. So very context dependent. I don't believe there's a right answer to that. It just depends who you are, what you need. Again, keeping mindful that you want to, place health and recovery as a real priority, like, because consistency is kind of key. So what do you need to continue to be healthy and consistent in moving on a day-to-day basis?
Okay.
Amber, do you
I would
track your
ask,
HRV at all?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Through the Garmin.
Because
Perfect.
that can be a really good way of determining as a tool whether you need a day to rest.
To rest. Okay.
what,
Yeah, makes sense. I typically right now, I've been taking one day off a week, and I just usually do Mondays, and it's worked really well, almost like more mentally for me, because I don't like to rest, but it's when I can catch up on like other family house things, work. I know that like I have a free day, but I usually still take the dog for a walk, or I'm doing something. Like I can't just sit still
I,
myself.
I I love that strategy, Amber. I have a number of athletes, some even semi-elite, that do that exact same strategy. Monday off for those
Yes.
exact same reasons. It's almost not the physiological effect, but it's almost like the mental effect. It's just, this is
Yeah.
my day. I can get caught up
Yep.
on all these various different things. So
Yes.
I think it's great what you're doing.
Yes.
yeah, I was gonna say and ask, like, how do you feel like you recover best from your big, days, like 12-hour? Maybe it's just, like, and then I was gonna ask you, like, do you have a dog? Do you take the dog
Yeah.
out for a walk? Because that's exactly what I do too. Like, just, keep moving my body, and it
Yep.
feels good, and mentally kind of refreshes it and
Yeah,
ready for the
I when
day.
I especially when you have these big events, when you're traveling too, it's nice to come home and you have that one or 2 days off after, especially after a big race, a multi-hour, that you have the day to clean up all your gear and then get life back in order. But yeah, the Mondays, I usually take Mondays off as well on a normally weekday basis, and then I know like that's my day catching up. But yeah, walking the dog, keeping the body moving and stretched out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm not sure if you've heard of Gordo Byrne, but he's a bit of a legend in the world of endurance training. I had him on my podcast, Training Science podcast, and he actually does like a 5-2 kind of model. So five pretty solid days of training load, but then two days either completely off or mostly off kind of thing, and that he finds that really works well too.
Works.
So it's kind of like, up, and then down, up, and
Yep.
I don't think there's a right way to do it. It's, there's lots of different ways to skin the cat, as we say.
Hmm.
But I think at the end of the day, you have to find your recovery balance. And if you're not paying attention to some way of recovering, you tend to, find out about it.
Yeah, through
The
some
hard way.
burnout.
So, looking back at your journey from those 5 to 10 miles with the kids,
Hmm.
I'm sure you've faced few challenges. Can you tell us about what kind of challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
I So I had a back fusion. in 2017. So I had, and in 2018, I had a second back fusion. So 2 years of a pretty big surgery. And I had about 3 months off of work, and I think from 2 to 6 weeks off the bike. So mentally in your head, you're like, I'm losing fitness, I'm off the bike. But thankfully, like I felt like the comeback was pretty strong from those. I'm racing like nothing ever happened. I can't tell that my spine is fused. I do cyclocross, running, jumping. I've been in a couple bike crashes with my fusion. Everything's holding strong. I might worry the doctors a little bit. I see them in surgery. And I'm like, they always ask, how many miles are you riding? And then, I tell them, they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, don't worry, I'm not my back is fine. But yeah, and then I had one pretty bad bike crash. It was the year that there was a big crash in Race the Lake. So we went down, I think, doing 30, 40 miles an hour, 10 miles from the finish. And I think I got somebody's chain ring right in my shin of my leg. And a month later, it was infected and it still hadn't healed. So I had to go in for surgery for that. I had cellulitis up my whole leg. So that one made me a little nervous.
Wow. But that sounds painful.
So Amber, you've taken on some really big challenges. 360 miles or whatever XL is right now, that's, what's your why? Why do you do these things? What motivates you for these long rides?
I love endurance. I like riding through the night. I guess I'm always looking for that next challenge. Like, I feel like I haven't found something that, has like been the one that's like, that's too much. So when you complete that 354 miles, you're like, well, what can I do now? What's next? And I really like the gravel component. I think the scenery is like a little better than just riding on the road. So I'm at the point though where I'm like, I don't want a race that's so big that I need to sleep. Like, I want them all to be where I can ride through and get through, in that 48 hours, hopefully in under at this point. I don't want to do any bike packing yet. Maybe someday. But yeah, I'm just trying to find that next level.
So it's always kind of a seeing what you can do, seeing how far you can push yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's amazing. I'm curious about your nutrition. Like, what do you carry in your bike during these long adventures?
So that is one thing that I do struggle a little bit with. When I had kids, I was diagnosed with delayed gastric emptying. So my stomach is a bit tricky for these ultra endurance events. When I'm doing my training and it's that solid zone 2 that you're in, my digestion is fine. Like, I can eat anything at the gas station. I usually carry food on me. I'll carry a sandwich. I'll eat all the junk you get at the gas stations. But when it comes to the race, I think because the starts are so hard and it's usually pretty hot, my stomach will stop digesting through the next couple of hours. So that is one thing I'm still trying to figure out. It's one thing that is tricky for me. So.
Yeah. And the gas station attendants, like, did you see the crazy that just came through?
Yeah. They're always like, they don't really quite understand it, but they're like, it's 1 a.m. and they're like, why are you guys riding out here? Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's dark.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, what are you doing?
You can imagine us in Race Across America doing the same thing. Like, I totally know what you're talking about. Yeah. You'd rock into these gas stations at X time at night, right? With all your kit. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah. Like, are you normal here? No.
Yeah. No, and you're massively sleep deprived from, and how long you've stayed up plus what you're doing to yourself. Like, yeah, it's a funny look, that's for sure. It's not something they see
Yeah,
every day.
no.
But it's such a problem, the nutrition standpoint. Like, you think of the issue, right? Like, you're trying to fuel yourself to perform. So in theory, you kind of need to keep your blood glucose level stable, and so in theory, you're trying to have almost all these liquid calories kind of coming in, mostly in a carb, mostly sugar, let's be honest, kind of format. In gels and carb electrolyte. But it's when we really start lengthening this out past, we're moving past like 24 hours, like the body's really starting. It's not meant to sort of do that. Like, and you look what you've just ingested and taken on within the gut compartment, right? Like, you've just taken in really sugar and not a lot of fiber and bulk that's meant to kind of be in there alongside protein content, fat. So yeah, again, like, let's extend this out to Race Across America length, right? 4,900 kilometers, 3,000 miles across the continent, 6 days. Like, we have this kind of, we're like a rolling circus, and you've got to have these other food substances. You've got to sort of settle down. Each rider in teams of 4, they got to take a bit of a break to have this food actually taken in. And it was things like baked potatoes. Like, baked potatoes really kind of became the thing, right? And you'd laden them with bacon bits and sour cream and this, like, it tasted so good, right? Like, after X number of days, right? Like, you just like, I can't handle any more gels, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can't, because I can't exist on that for X number of days.
You are now involved in a new adventure with Team 1 Mile.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that? How that got started and the ride you just completed?
So, George from Broken Spoke was contacted by Mike Campbell. So Mike Campbell, he is originally from Wisconsin. He started Team 1 Mile, and basically it is a group of, as he calls it, civilians or veterans. And together we are raising money to help children of fallen servicemen and women attend a counseling camp for about 1 week. I think they said it's $2,600 just to get one child through this camp. So they go to this camp for 1 week here in Wisconsin to be with other kids that have also lost a parent. And so they can get the help that they need and kind of open up. And, it's a big change when you lose a parent. So yeah, this year we did 6 cities, just shy of 700 miles in 6 days, riding around Wisconsin to raise awareness for it. And we hit our goal. We raised $100,000 that we were able to donate to the camp. It was very cool. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's like we have a team mechanic, kind of like you were talking about. We have a full SAG with the mechanic and the nutrition support behind us, following us through the town. And we had about 21 riders, I think, that were with, and we were of all different abilities. For some of them, they actually did their first century during this week, which is crazy because, you think they just rode 700 miles this week. And for some of them, like, this is the first time they ever, rode 100 miles in one time. So it was pretty amazing that they were able to do that.
Big time.
I mean, I was tired and, they came in and didn't have that endurance training. But yeah, they did it. And, some people, they did take a break here and there in the SAG van, or if they had a mechanical issue, they would keep them in the van until they got that bike fixed and then sent them on their way. I had 2 flat tires the first day and the second day back to back. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already 2 flats in here, like big gash in my tire. We were able to get another tire. I was like, at first so bummed. I'm like, I don't want to have to be missing out, but we were able to fix it. But yeah, it's very cool. touring around Wisconsin like that. Next year it'll be, I think, just shy of 700 miles still, but we're going to knock it down to 5 days, I believe. So we're going to do closer to probably 140 miles a day.
Wow.
Wow.
But the days are just jam packed. So, you do your ride, and then when you get to the town, we're meeting and socializing with the community and the veterans. And we had live music. We had musicians touring with us, so they were playing music there. We had speakers. So, by the time we're getting into our hotel at night, it's 8:39 at night, and then we are literally rolling out the door at 6 a.m. So there's not any downtime. So it's just kind of like an oiled machine, just going and going.
Wow.
That is
But
beautiful.
you raised $100,000.
Yes, we did.
That's crazy. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're still collecting too for the camp. So you can just go to teamonemile.com or .org, I believe it is, and make donations. So it's very cool to see these kids going.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll leave that in the show notes.
Yes.
People want to donate. That's great.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, what a great conversation. I think my 3 is going to start with the first one. We spoke on a lot of different topics, but the first one that comes to mind was the topic of recovery, and we kind of danced around it. And I guess we just highlighted its importance. And in terms of how you get that, it's going to be context sort of specific. It could be a whole lot if you're just starting out, but it could be very little if you're right up there. But as a general rule, 1 to 2 days that gives you your own me time for the mental recovery was a great take-home point. So consider that in your training. We also spoke a lot about the Zone 2 training and the prescription. And we had both Amber's experience, and we had some physiological rationale for why you should train your Zone 2 efforts using heart rate to keep the stress under control and over a power or a pace prescription. So that was the second point. And I'll leave the best for last, because it was really this was everything that Amber was really telling us. And it was, it was all around her why and the whole aspect of challenge. And that can start when, you just want to start moving. And we heard Amber's story about her watching her husband, doing his Spinergy efforts. And then she wanted to do that as well and challenged herself, moved from 5 miles, moved to 10 miles, moved to 200 miles. And then now she's doing Unbound at 354 miles. So there is, again, this is within all of us humans, every single one of us listening to it. There's nothing that can't be done. And, again, I think it was Muhammad Ali actually that said it. It was, if the mind can conceive it and the heart believes it, the body can achieve it. So I think hopefully that's something we can all take on board.
Yeah. I think with the Unbound XL, like, what stopped me was just the fear of the amount. And I think I had a friend that said, like, what are you afraid of? Like, you're just training more, like, you can do this. And it's all in your, you're just got to believe in it.
That is all for this week. Join us next week on the Athletes Compass podcast. Ask your training questions in the comments or in our social media or on our forum at athletica.ai. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to give us a 5-star review. For more information or to schedule a consultation with Paul, Marjaana, or myself, please check the links in the show notes. For Amber Searer, Marjaana Rakai, and Dr. Paul Laursen, I am Paul Warloski, and this has been the Athletes Compass podcast. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Athletes Compass podcast, your North Star through the sometimes complicated world of training for your endurance sport. We appreciate your comments and training questions and your 5-star reviews. For a deeper dive into the science of endurance sports, listen to the Training Science podcast and check out the adaptive AI training platform athletica.ai. Thanks for listening.